Usually a new regime comes in to replace an old regime that didn't do very well the previous year. That isn't the case here, as the Las Vegas Raiders went to the playoffs last year. But when new regimes take over teams, they usually find parts of the roster they don't like and want to bring in guys they like and fit their system. The best way to do that is through the draft, but with the new talent the new regime brought in this offseason, the Raiders should be able to compete right away. They're at least good enough not to pick in the top half of the draft, so they can't get that high of a pick without trading. Oh yes they can. They're already 2-6, so they can tank if they haven't been tanking already. Here's why I think they might be. Let's not get anything twisted here. The Raiders really did start off thinking they were going to win this year, but the first part of the schedule was tough. They started with the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 1, the Arizona Cardinals in Week 2, the Tennessee Titans in Week 3. Then they had a break with the Denver Broncos in Week 4 and the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 5. 3 of the first 5 teams the Raiders played this year are AFC playoff contenders, so they got to see who and what they are compared to them. The Raiders started 1-5 with that one win against the Broncos, so it didn't go well against the contenders. They lost to the Chargers by 5, the Titans by 2, and the Chiefs by 1. So the Raiders showed they are good enough to compete with the best teams in the league, but came up just short of beating them. In those losses, the team's weaknesses were exposed, as a few of those offseason pickups are major disappointments. Now, the Raiders know where they messed up and have an idea of what types of players they need to beat those AFC playoff contending teams. The defense obviously needs the most help. The secondary and linebacker core could be better, but outside of Max Crosby, the defensive line has been more of a disappointment than anything. Edge rusher Chandler Jones got $17 million a year this offseason and only got a half a sack midway through the playing season. Bilal Nichols is also among those free agent pickups last offseason that have been a disappointment. With the quarterbacks in the AFC West, the Raiders badly need a 3 technique that can bring that pressure right into their faces. But that just isn't happening with Nichols. And since Jones has been such a disappointment too, the Raiders are last in the league in sacks despite having an elite edge rusher. So if the Raiders are indeed tanking, a dominant 3 technique is what they need. Those that want to replace quarterback Derek Carr so badly need to go sit down in the back of the room somewhere. The pick is 3 technique Jalen Carter from Georgia. He's cut from the Ndamukong Suh, Warren Sapp, and Aaron Donald cloth. When you get a guy like that, your defense, therefore your team, becomes instantly better. More and more these days, the strategy of GMs is if you're not an elite team or can't beat an elite team, you might as well suck all the way so you can get that highly coveted blue chipper to get you to the next level. The Raiders' schedule is actually really good to them in that way. Like I said before, they played 3 AFC playoff contenders and didn't beat any of them, so they might as well tank. The Cardinals and Chiefs legitimately came back from 17 or a little more behind on the Raiders because they were still finding out who and what they were back then. But the Jacksonville Jaguars coming back on you from such a deficit is absolutely ridiculous. Going to New Orleans and getting blown out and shut out by the Saints is even worse. The way the Raiders blew those games is suspect too. It's as simple as throwing the ball to Devontae Adams, your superstar receiver you paid all that money this offseason. I mean, come on. You saw how easy it was to go downfield and score when they got him the ball. And now they got Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller on IR? Are you convinced the Raiders are still trying to win this season? Alright. I'm trying to figure something out here, so maybe you can help me out in the comments section. How is a team a play away from beating elite teams at the beginning of the season, all of a sudden getting blown out by sorry teams? And somebody please help me understand how they let a team like the Jaguars come back from 17 down. And for the love of God, if you've done well building up a 17-point lead by getting the ball to Adams, why would you stop? McDaniels isn't incompetent at all, so he's really not that incompetent. So the Raiders must be tanking for Carter. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.